Ladies and gentlemen, the sequel of Ghost of Tsushima is on its way, coming out this year in 2025. And it's definitely something we should be looking forward to, as it looks pretty damn good. Sucker Punch's next big entry into the series is turning it into a full-blown anthology, giving us a brand new antagonist, a complete time skip, and has been built completely from the ground up for the PS5. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Ghost of Yotei, and we got lots to talk about. And by the way, consider hitting that like button for me. It helps me out a lot and lets me know you guys are enjoying the video. Thank you so much. So the state of play already showed some gameplay, but now we got a lot more details from the boatload of interviews from the game developers. The first big change we need to touch on is the size difference we can expect to see moving into Ghost of Yotei, as we're now moving over into Hokkaido, which is a much bigger area than Tsushima ever was. Actually, about 100 times bigger, in fact. The trailer shown us sprawling landscapes, huge open areas, the giant Yotei mountain in the background, which looks absolutely beautiful. But we also have a complete change in biome diversity, as they shown us a snowy tundra with many other environments that we're going to get to explore. This was always the case in Tsushima as well, with the beautiful environments, but now it should be even a bigger visual spectacle, as Sucker Punch is rebuilding the game from the ground up for PlayStation 5, making the world feel even more real than before. They go on to say, quote, "We have massive sight lines that let you look far across the environments. They created all new skies featuring twinkling stars and auroras, and even more believable moments from the wind on the vegetation. And with these new changes that they're bringing to the table, they're able to add additional mechanics, gameplay improvements, and even new weapons. The game and world in general does look very vibrant, from the additional particle effects that they're able to put on screen to the amount of creatures roaming the fields at any given time. For example, this scene here with Hatsu on horseback with a herd of horses running along the landscape. And this is some of the highest amount of creature density I think I've ever seen in a Ghost of Tsushima game. Now, covering the new protagonist, I do personally feel like it's a bit of a bummer that we're not continuing the story of Jin Sakai. Like, some of the stuff in game definitely made me feel like it was building up for a much bigger adventure to come with him, but instead Sucker Punch is choosing to go another route with a brand new protagonist, a female samurai who goes by the name of Ansu. The voice actor behind this character is Erika Ishii, and she is very well versed, has plenty of experience under her belt with being a part of popular games like Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as well as Cyberpunk 2077, with a slew of other characters being voiced by her in the past. So in Ghost of Yotei, Hatsu's journey takes place in 1603, more than 300 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima. So besides the whole time skip event that we're going through, the action takes place in a completely different geographical area of Japan in the land surrounding Mount Yotei. Situated in the northern part of Japan, the area in which the time period takes place is the whole island while it's outside of Japan's rule. And with that comes many unexpected dangers and conflict with the different clans of the region, to internal government issues that may arise throughout the story. Another benefit that we get from this game, putting us through a giant time skip, is us being able to master completely new sets of weapons, tools, as well as powers and skills that are more appropriate to this specific time period. So besides our melee weapons like the katanas, Atsu also carries firearms. In fact, we have a small teaser of Atsu using what looks like a musket, and this is going to add such a new dynamic to the combat. Of course, we still did have some ranged combat via the bow and arrow in Tsushima, but I'm curious if this will open up like a full-on skill tree with just the ranged musket being in mind. Who knows if we're going to be able to replenish the ammo when you hit headshots, or will you be able to slow down time like we did with some of the bow builds in Tsushima? But it's going to add a whole new dynamic on how we see and play through the game with our ranged combat. I could see this be some kind of builder spender, because it looks like it could be quite overpowered very quickly, so we will have to wait and see on how they plan on implementing this. Another interesting part of the combat is the fact that Atsu also uses dual-wield sets of katanas in some of the footage we see here. Now, this is a very uncommon fighting style that we would see from a samurai of this time period, except for one important historical figure, which is none other than Miyamoto Musashi. He was considered the original inventor of the two-sword fighting style, and he actually lived from 1584 to 1648, so he would fit perfectly and would be living in this game's time period. So we can only assume we might just see a 25-year-old Musashi train Hatsu to help explain how we're able to use this dual-wield katana fighting style. Some other aspects of combat that we can confirm is the Undying Flame, showing itself once again, as we see here, in a new badass updated look as he sets his entire sword aflame. We also see Atsu wielding the Kusagama, the sickle, and weighted chain. This is again a very unique weapon they're bringing to the table that is light, nimble, and compact, and it was also quite common in this period of time. And I can also see this being like a perfect counter against any swordsman, giving us a way to entangle our enemies' weapons, or just a way to immobilize their arms or legs to create some interesting weak points. Of course, we still have the single stance katanas that we see in many of the shots here, and this looks to be a start of a duel, so that's another piece that we have partial confirmation of, that dueling will be making a return brought forward into the new game. One-on-one duels were met with overall positivity, and personally was one of my favorite parts in Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm so glad that they're making a decision to actually bring that back. Like, the boss fights and arenas were beautiful. All of that stuff, the one-on-ones were just mint. Again, I do think it's a bit of a disappointment that we're not going to be seeing more of Jin Sakai or continuing his story with the Mongol invasion, but I think Tsushima did a good job of coming around full circle. Instead, it looks like Sucker Punch is going more into the idea of talking about the ghost itself, rather than just any specific character. I think they know their direct competitor is like Assassin's Creed, and an interview with the New York Times from the game's creative director, Nate Fox, and Jason Connolly, they stated, quote, "The sequel to Ghost of Tsushima is the linchpin to a series of tightly choreographed efforts by Sony to transform the series into a larger entertainment franchise." So they're not just taking the sequels and moving into a different setting, but they're also putting the title into a completely different type of media. And I can totally see why Sony wants to push for this, as other types of games have been making a huge splash when they come out as movies in the past few years. I mean, we can look at Uncharted, the Super Mario Bros. Movies, Arcane, even the Cyberpunk anime brought in a huge influx of players back to the game. That, and the fact that Sony probably already knows that they have the upper hand on quality and polish compared to the absolute massive franchise that frankly has been falling recently, Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed. So we can clearly see why it's not a total shock, as why they're looking at the bigger picture and not just focusing on one specific character, but looking on how they can expand the story and lore of the ghosts of their time period, giving them a lot of room to develop a long-lasting series. And I'm all about it. I think Sucker Punch has quite the winning formula going on right now, and I'm a huge fan of the assassin, stealthy, open world design, and samurai gameplay. It's one of the best ways to experience that culture and fight style Japan-based games have to offer. But as of now, I'm extremely excited for the game. As I said, we're looking to get it in 2025, and I think it's really nice since we don't have to wait that long to get our hands on it. But for the time being, this is everything we know about Ghost of Tsushima 2, aka Ghost of Yotei. Are you excited for the game? If so, what are you most looking forward to? Leave it in the comments below. Consider hitting that like button, subscribe, ring the notification bell, all that jazz, and I will see you in the next one. Toodles!